Capricorn. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising or Venus. This is a general reading for you. 9th of August 2026. So I'm going to use the Rider-Waite deck with some few other cards to see what's going on with you. Or Capricorn North Node. You might have Capricorn North Node, or quite a lot of Capricorn placements in your chart, so it might be of help. Let's have a look and see what's happening. Oh gosh, okay. 9 of Swords. So, you've got some worries and concerns, Capricorn. Find out what's going on then. What are these worries and concerns? Gosh, feeling defeated. Doesn't look like the best start, but I'm sure things are going to get better. 10 of Swords, some sense of defeat. I feel like you're okay though. You're just kind of moving beyond whatever this is. Could have health problems. I feel like there could be some, possibly been feeling off colour. I feel like you'd still, you're giving out. You're still being the hostess with the mostess, as it were. You're still able to, you're still connecting with people, you're still able to give, you're still able to, participate, but I feel as if, just feeling health problems. You could be so tired and run down, but you're being advised to see things from a different perspective. This could be to do with your work. Perhaps you're having to look at that, about how you're working. Perhaps you're not feeling as if you're getting enough return, or there's been an issue over money. Perhaps you're self-employed and you could be raising money. You could be raising money for charity, something like that. Raising money for community, or community overseas, or something like that. But you're raising money, or whatever you have been doing to raise money. It's like you're still doing it, and it still brings you, a fair amount of fulfillment and kind of joy, and it still brings you, satisfaction. But for some reason, you're Capricorn needing to see things and from another viewpoint. Because you might have had a sort of wake-up call. I feel as if, with the Tower popping up here, that you had something that's sort of shook the foundations, if you like, and in doing that, you're having to see some things differently. And Capricorn, it might be feeling as if you're putting in a lot for not getting a kind of great deal of return at the moment. So you're still working hard, which is your most sort of famous and renowned attribute. Hard working, and maybe it's not feeling as if you're getting, but yeah, whatever is coming in for you. Yeah, let's just see what we've got here. Oh, okay. So maybe you're just recovering from some of maybe you're recovering from some kind of betrayal. It's, you know, something like, you know, heartbreak, something. It's like heartbreak or betrayal. It doesn't have to be a romantic issue here. Heartbreak from that. It could be just, you know, it could be family, friends, feeling let down. The cause of, you know, sleepless nights, but the cause of feeling defeated. And maybe that's woken you up to, you know, put you in that hangman, having to see things from differently. Perhaps you've you have a lot of things going on, and distribution of funds. You know, you might be supporting a charity, you might be supporting something that's requiring your, you know, a lot from you. You may well be working towards your goals, you know, pretty relentlessly, but not feeling as if you're getting maybe enough appreciation for what you do. So, well, the Seven of Swords, you know, you kind of understanding when to leave, when to, because this defeat here, you know, at the centre of your reading, you know, this is right on top of this. You know, that's worries keeping you up at night. You know, a lot of mental turmoil, and, you know, a feeling of being defeated. Maybe you really are having difficulty sleeping. Maybe you know this has impacted you to the point where you're feeling maybe weak, maybe a bit tired, maybe weak, maybe your energy, you know, is a bit zapped. But you know when to walk away. Is like, you know. I feel like, Capricorn, you're at the moment being confronted with a lot of decisions while you're in the hangman, while you're in seeing things differently from another perspective. You may be clearing out the clutter, you know, Seven of Swords, walking away from things that no longer serve your highest good. You know, that could be linked with heartbreak. Maybe you've broken up with somebody, maybe, you know, there could be a situation here, Capricorn, where you just decide to walk away from a few things so that you don't find yourself completely drained of, you know, of energy and resources, is what I'm feeling. That even though things, you know, you're not short of anything, even though things might be on an even keel in your work life, and you kind of know what you're doing day to day, but there is a sense of leaving things behind, leaving maybe a cycle, and then moving into a different way of being, leaving, you know, sort of past things behind. With the Three of Swords, yeah, the betrayal. It's like, okay, well, I can leave that there. I don't have to go and revisit that. I don't have to ask myself too many questions about it. Oneself, I should say. You know, this is I'm speaking how your mind would be going, as it were. It's like you're, you know, maybe experiencing sleepless nights and, you know, difficulty switching off, feeling a sense of defeat. You've sort of, perspective has shifted through that. and perhaps your perspective on how you're utilising your funds. Because I feel like, Capricorn, you've had to, maybe demand more of yourself, in the work sphere. You've had to make more demands of yourself because you have particular financial goals to meet, financial. I feel like other people might be needing of you financially, for some of you. And you have to keep the ball rolling, because you have to cover whatever it is in your life. You have to cover these particular costs, and I feel as if you're being, perhaps even, some of you might have even asked for a pay rise. If you're working somewhere, if you're self-employed, you might have just, sort of upped your fees for things. Or you're needing to do that. You're needing not to be, underpaid, because you're multi-talented. There's a lot of things, usually a few strings to your bow, and you can work, and you work well, and you work hard, and you're very dedicated to that. In fact, work is your it's your thrill in life. You get a lot out of it, and satisfaction at the same time. It's not all about what you're earning, but you do get a lot of satisfaction out of what you do when you do it well. And I feel as if, and for some Capricorns out there, you may have changed career, or lost a job, or started something new, or you could be having new clients if you're self-employed. There could be new clients. Could be expanding slightly, if your business could be, or needing to expand, needing to, and some of you might be feeling like spending more time on your own. You might be feeling as if you're kind of work weary, and you might be needing, it could be that you're needing to spend a bit of time, a bit more time on your own, and not focus too much on the losses. I feel there's been some losses, and it could have been people, could be, work situation. I'm feeling as if you have walked away from, some people, or some people, places, things. You're still in a place with, the Five of Cups, that it's almost like a nostalgic, almost energy of looking back over the things you may have lost. That you can't sort of live there, because you've also got blessings coming in. You've got, other things. But if you're too focused on the things you lost, maybe didn't work out, how you hoped, etc. And if this is relating to a love situation, a romantic situation, that could well be the loss, could be breakup, something where you still, despite carrying on, maybe with a heavy heart, you're still carrying on, and you're still, doing the things, Capricorn, you're responsible, known to be highly responsible, and that hasn't gone out the window, despite you might be feeling tired a bit, heavy heart a bit. Sometimes you get a day when you're not really feeling it, possibly. And this could be linked to, you know, you can't, because we only got the now, you can't be, it's not a very good energy, it's not good to stay in an energy of kind of regret or looking back over things that you should have, would have, could have. You know, it's like we all been in this place where, you know, you can it's easy to look back over, you know, in retrospect. Retrospect is a hard taskmaster, is it that? Retrospect, when you're in retrospect and you see clearly things you may have done to you know, to cause the tower, to cause you feeling, you know, a bit defeated and having to see things differently, you know, looking back and being in that sort of, because it's not really a nostalgia, but it sort of is. It's not going to help you move forwards, because it's going to keep you there when you need to be moving forwards, and maybe walking away from some things. Maybe you realise there are some things that literally aren't you know, serving your highest good. So it could be a case of, you know, clearing out the clutter in terms of people, places, things. And it's okay to, you know, retrospectively look back over your shoulder to see, you know, how things have transpired, but it's not a place to stay, because it will just keep you in a, you know, a place of not being able to move forward. So but because you're enduring, you are going to have to be in that place for too long, and you might be feeling like for, you know, periods of time not wanting to be around too many people for long periods of time. But you know, if you think, you know, you are what you think. You know, if you have serene here, that you are serene, which is a lovely old school word. You know, describing that sort of inner peace, that, you know, serenity, inner peace, you know, floating through, a bit like a swan on the water, gliding through. I saw some today, beautiful swans, 2 large swans, 2 parent swans and a very large cygnet, kind of teenage swan. And they were just so wonderful. They just glide along serenely across the water, but ironically, you know that just under the surface, their feet, you know, are going like the clappers, and they're just, you know, it's like the surface, what looks like, you know, underneath. Maybe that's where you are, Capricorn, that you're looking very serene, as if you're managing and coping very well, but actually what's going on is this kind of manic movement. You're making it look easy, you know. That's the things you're managing at the moment. Perhaps the outside world, you're making things look easy. You know, you're enduring tough, and not everyone can see that really you're working overtime, or you know, you've got these swan feet going on under the surface, keeping things going, which can be a bit pissing off, because if somebody sees you looking as if you're making things look easy, but they don't know that actually behind the scenes it's not really like that. You know, it's not. And maybe you know this. Yeah, because you're still motivated, and maybe you need to remind yourself if sometimes your kind of motivation dips, because you might be finding yourself in the sort of in the Five of Cups, and a little bit sort of regretful, a little bit moody. You know, you have to remind yourself, or motivate yourself. Sometimes that can feel difficult, especially after you've had some kind of catastrophic moment or life event that's knocked you off centre. And it can be difficult to motivate yourself, especially after any kind of betrayal or end of relationship, or having to kind of reshuffle everything and reorganise, who's in, who's out, who do I like, who don't I like. If you're kind of having to reorganise your world, where you expend energy, and don't forget money is energy too. There's perhaps your sometimes motivation drops out of the equation, which it can do, and it's good to find in those moments to understand that it's just in your head. And lack of motivation can be through physical tiredness, exhaustion, mental exhaustion, of course, can cause lack of motivation. But it's important to keep your energy levels up by, sort of sleeping right, eating right, getting plenty of fresh air, getting decent sleep, night's sleep, it's important. Not frittering your energy. Essentially, you're happy. I think essentially you're okay, as long as you don't find yourself dwelling on the past. The past is gone. The future isn't ours to know. It hasn't arrived, and so the now is all we have. And when you think about that, nothing else really matters. It's not always easy to stay in the now. Because we live in a society that's always looking ahead. Looking ahead, what's next? When it's not part of our education in the Western world anyway, to live in the now often. It takes practice to live in the now, as if it's the last moment you may well have. You like my bunny? He's a good gal. Well, you're taking inspired action, so to materialise your desires. You might be journaling or doing something similar, like writing a journal or putting down, bullet point ideas of things you want to do, things you need to do. What might help if you don't do that already, might actually help if you do some kind of or like a mood board. That's good fun. Mood board, just pick up, find some old magazines or new magazines, something with a lot of images, something. And you can get a piece of board from an art suppliers, or even a large bit of cardboard or something like that. And PVA glue, get cut out images, stick them down. Just don't, when you do it, you don't judge what it is you're cutting out. Just flick the pages. If something speaks to you from the page, cut it out, stick it down, go through, and you can actually create a mood board of things you might be wanting to manifest, or the kind of life you'd like, or the changes you want to make, or something that lifts your spirits. Colours, you can add colours and different things, and then you create a sort of mood board, and it will tell you a lot about where you are right now. There's an exercise we used to do in one of my trainings. I can't remember which one, but it was, or therapies even. It might have been one of my therapies I went to. yeah, it would have been in one of my art therapy classes I went to when I was in recovery from one of my mental breakdowns. So it would have been a recovery centre, where mood boards were encouraged, and it was a great deal of fun, especially if you do it in a group, because you're all scrabbling over various magazines and you being able to sort of share the experience of making mood board collages. Of course, you can do it on your own. I've done it on my own before as well, made mood boards. And you can put it somewhere and it kind of lifts your spirits, reminds you of, I mean, it doesn't have to always be, some mood boards I've made have been a bit not so happy, but at least it was giving me an idea of where I was and what was going on, all in here. That could be something to do. And you've got revive. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people right now, a lot of us, are reviving old things. It's like revivalism. I feel like, what with the AI, I feel as if we're now in a place where there's AI on that extreme, and then there's revivalism. I was talking about this with a photographer friend of mine recently, and the revivalism is on the other end of the spectrum. Reviving old music, reviving old clothing, reviving just revivalism in general. And projects, this covers also things that you might have had, that you were doing a project or something, or starting something that you put on hold. Because to be real, let's be realistic, the COVID epidemic really sort of created quite a lot of this in people's lives, at how, it was a complete shake-up, wake-up call. And I think after that, there's been so many shifts, in energy, so many people's, lives shifted into different directions. Kind of, some of us went way off track into, things that you hadn't expected, to places you hadn't expected to go, situations that you didn't expect to be in. It did impact us in more ways than we realised, like psychologically and spiritually, in fact, and emotionally, all levels. And it's revivalism is excuse me, I lost my thread. But if you're reviving anything from, say, a few years ago, before or during COVID epidemic, stupid thing that was, but no, it wasn't that stupid. So if you're doing anything there, like going back to those, not pre necessarily COVID, maybe there were things that you were doing, or people, places, things that you might be revisiting. For example, a project, I can vouch here for me, in that I know I have projects I'd like to revive, because I've put them on a kind of hold. And I feel like, Capricorn, if you're going back to some things that you had, unfinished, maybe even unfinished business, unfinished whatever, how this resonates, it's not always that easy, because you're then going to go back to that moment in time where you last left off. For example, if I were to be making some art, and then I left it for a bit because I didn't like it, turned it to the wall, thought, no, I'm not vibing that particular piece. And this happens a lot with creatives. So you put it on hold, or you put it somewhere because it's not going anywhere. Then you might a few years later find that again and consider reworking it, or consider doing something, or consider even it's done, it's fine as it is, and proceed from there. But there's something very cool about reviving something, or renovation, you know, finding something that needs a bit of TLC, and you can do that because you're a renovator, or and of course that's quite a skill, and it can be quite difficult because if you're going to renovate something, you're going to try and get it as near as how it was before. And then it's not always, doesn't go like that, because it could be you feeling more revived as well, of course. Kind of, you could be having like a kind of revival of your energy. You could be feeling more upbeat because you're feeling that. But you have the Empress too. So there are new ideas, I feel, Capricorn. You've got a lot of good ideas. Perhaps this revival, you're going back to things that you were doing maybe a few years ago. Going back and realising that, oh, you can go further with this, or, you know, you might be discovering things you did maybe 3 or 4 years ago and realising what it is you need to do to update it, or rework it, rethink it, revive it. God, okay, I think you got the message. So, and in doing that, if you're doing anything or reviving anything, often is a difficult juxtaposition, because you're actually living in the present, doing the things you're doing to move your life forwards in the right direction. But also, if you're going to go back, revive some things that you've left, it's making you go back to a sort of more nostalgic time as well. So, you know, hence you might make sense, you know, having 5 cups, because this could be, you could be reviving something that you've done before, and it's bringing back nostalgia, and you're also maybe looking at the should, would, could have, which is easy to do. It's kind of, well, why didn't I finish that project? Oh, I left that unfinished, la la la. But that's all kind of, you know, hamster wheel talking. But I feel as if these new ideas that you're having, you're breathing some kind of new life into what it is that you might have been doing. You're kind of resuscitating it. And I think this is causing a little bit of problem, because it's taking you back down memory lane, if you see what I mean. But not that you're not managing, you know, at all. You are managing, you're just faced with a few uncomfortable things. So, but you're just getting started or restarted. So the patience could be the thing. You need to be patient with yourself, and all the process of, you know, moving forward, changing things, starting new stuff, reviving stuff. God save my nails. So don't give up, because it can feel sometimes like a sort of thankless task, you know, just treadmill. But make sure you inject a bit of fun into your life. If you're not, you know, find ways to, you know, enjoy yourself. Don't go and do something different that you wouldn't normally do. For example, go and, you know, maybe you picking up an old sport that you had, or an activity that you used to enjoy, and you want to reconnect that. We'll see if you can still, and expect a miracle. So have faith that your prayers are being heard. Yeah, so perhaps you've been feeling a need to do that, to pray, you know, connect with Source, go out into nature. I mean, miracles are everywhere. We're just too blind to see them, or too, you know, rushed. You know, they're happening every day, but many people just don't even acknowledge them when they happen. And you know, it's a miracle, I think, that to be able to wake up and be given another day is a kind of miracle. You know, you wake up and you know, you're greeted by, you know, bird song and sunshine, and you know how lucky, or you know, and then it's like a miracle in itself. Living, breathing, walking, being able to get through a day and then be granted another one the next day, you know. We're a long time dead, you see. And also you're going to have some golden opportunities, so important doors will be opening. You may have closed some doors, Capricorn, I feel like. There's been endings of cycles, end of cycles, definitely. And it might feel as if, well, you know, the end is like when you you know, you've watched a film and you've really engrossed in it and you've completely been absorbed in it, and then the film finishes and there's that feeling of right, okay, where am I, what now, you know, what, and then you come back to reality, you know, after watching that film, and suddenly you're in reality again, as it were. It's like that. It's a place I feel you're at. You know, that cycle's ended, you're entering a new one, but you don't really know what it is, but you sort of kind of got an idea. So listen to your guides, listen to your guidance, you know, connect to source and listen to that, because you know you're gonna find yourself, new doors are opening, new doors will open, and it's just a case of believing it. So any situations that you're in right now, Capricorn, might feel heavy, might feel difficult. You know, fairness. You could be in dispute with somebody, some of you, or just tying up loose ends. I know, that kind of vibe. So, you know, there's fairness at any situations that are going on that could be causing you this worry and stress and defeat. Well, you know, it will be handled in a fair manner. Be fair. You'll come, you know. Because you're going through a lot of change, I feel, Capricorn, and I feel that you're entering a whole new cycle, karmic cycle perhaps. And so as you transform, you'll find yourself being able to enjoy life more than maybe you have as well recently, and that's maybe something you've been lacking, that's been missing. No, it might be an idea to get a generator crystal. They do help your energy. They help your energy, keep your energy levels up. They can help you trust your intuition more. They're healing crystals. So, you you know, it promotes poise, this one, and your confidence. So it helps with self-confidence. And a concise expression of thoughts and words. Strengthens as well, strengthens your nervous system. So it's always a good one to have, just to generate a crystal. No, yeah, no, hematite again. Yeah, hematite is about survival. It's an iron oxide. Mineralogy and iron oxide. It's quite a hard stone. Promotes striving for improvement if you're in a difficult situation. So it helps you focus on improving it. You know, if there's areas that need improvement, it helps pursue your aims with determination as well, and to even fight for them if necessary. So it also helps assimilate iron. So there might be a link there with, you may have iron deficiency. And hematite will help. If you wear that. It's easy to get hold of hematite. Very easy to access. And tourmaline. Again, pretty easy to get hold of. Tourmaline is the most common. Tourmaline is black. There are others. There's cat's eye. There's blue. There's yellow, green. I think there's even pink tourmaline, rainbow tourmaline, red, pinkish red. But blue tourmaline. Indigo light is another word for it. Indigo light. Nice word. It's a silicate. Oh, it's good for faithfulness and ethics. Dissipates grief and blocked emotions. And helps you with tolerance and open-mindedness. Enhances the love of truth and the sense of responsibility. So also helps with water balance. If you're prone to water retention or anything like that, kidneys and bladder, yes, promotes good healing of burns as well. So tourmaline, generated crystal, and hematite. All of them are useful for you to get hold of that. One of them, or yeah. Anyway, Capricorn, that's it. I love you, leave you. I hope this was helpful. Do like if you enjoyed it, and if you like